And welcome back to this very nice discussion on East African Breweries Ltd, just focusing on the company's full year 2019 results. And with us here is Linda Kiraitheanalyst, who is a senior analyst at Apex Africa Capital and also an analyst covering this company, taking us through some of the key highlights of the company. And Linda, we are now transitioning the balance sheet. Yes, and the balance sheet, I have one issue, which is there's a significant buildup of payables from, not payables, receivables in Uganda. This is because in Uganda they've had to do a number of things. Because of the inferior position in the market, they've had to give distributors credit. You know, EABL in Kenya today, they don't give credits on a cash basis. Now they've had to give distributors in Uganda credit, extended credit periods, because also the distributors basically telling them that if you're not giving us credit, you're not going to distribute your products. And this is a function of the market. As you said, markets are different. And from that, they've had to have a build-up of significant receivables in Uganda. And this has caused the gap between the working capital gap to widen, and which is a big concern for me. Do you think, and which ultimately affects the cash position? Have you seen that in their balance sheet? I mean, from your analysis of the results when you were there last week, have you seen anything that's concerning you on the balance sheet side?
Despite that gap that you've mentioned, I feel that their cash conversion is doing well. I mean, cash conversion over 100%.
Yeah, they were talking about a triple
one, actually, 111%. Yes. So I would not really worry about their cash position, but management has been talking of, they are looking at whether in the future they will consider taking more debt or using the cash that they say they have in their hands. Yeah. We also saw a case where investors were complaining that you guys have too much cash. Why don't you give out more? We want to see more return. So I would not really worry about their cash position right now. I feel that for now it's under control.
Okay. Yeah. So just again, you keep preempting all my questions, so thank you very much for that. On the dividend, they paid 8.5 shillings per share for the full year, and this is about 13.3% from what they paid last year, 7.5. And I noticed some of the investor activists actually at the investor briefing were saying, you have 20 billion and you have sorted out Tanzania. Tanzania is okay, it's no longer the problem child. You've already put up the bulk of your expenditure with regards to your new Kisumu plant. So it felt like they were asking, when will this 20 billion come to us? I want you to help us understand, why isn't this 20 billion going to the investors?
I would not really have the perfect reason. Okay. But I feel that maybe, given that the plant has just been set, operations and commercialization are set to take some time, because they also made it clear that they've not fully utilized the whole plant. Yes. So you expect that maybe in time they'll bring more machinery. Maybe they plan on starting producing beer from that end. Okay. And given that management is really trying to keep borrowings in control, I feel that is the reason they're holding on to this cash.
So it's for maintenance capex for the Kisumu plant, maybe new capex in Uganda, Tanzania, and also just clearing their debt position. Yes. So then, in your own estimate, was 8.5 in line with your dividend payout for this year?
No, mine was lower.
Okay, what were you expecting?
I was expecting 8 shillings.
8 shillings. Yes. So slightly, just a slight difference. What yield does this give?
So this one gives a yield of about 4.2% on the total dividend.
On the total dividend.
Yes, at the current price of 203.
Okay.
Yes.
And then just you're creating this scenario. You're saying some businesses are stable, but then some other businesses need additional capex. Yeah. And maybe you haven't. I don't know whether you have updated your forecast, but do you think they can continue with this dividend payout of about 8 to 8.5 for another year or two?
I think they will need to boost the dividends. I mean, 4.2% is really low.
It's pretty low.
It's pretty low. And also, given the high price for EABL, capital gains are also not really that massive. Okay. I mean, the price has been down this year. Started out, by the time I was releasing my model, that was in May, it was about 214. Wow. So it went down 14 shillings. But I feel that in the next 2 years, once this Kisumu plant thing is sorted out, they will need to really boost their dividend.
They will need, so maybe it's maybe a 3-year dividend play if you want to get something better.
Yes.
The other question I was going to ask on the balance sheet, based on what they reported and what you had forecast, was there any points of divergence? Maybe on your liabilities, net debt, current account, working capital?
On my borrowings?
Yes.
Because I had anticipated that my borrowings would go up about 5%.
Okay.
But actually it went down.
All right.
Yeah.
So they use the same cash to pay off to pay off debt.
Yeah.
So it feels like the strategy is first get rid of the debt because that's an expense to them as a management team, and then roll out the capex. So in other words, it feels like they're telling the investor, at least we are not losing money. Yeah. You're getting something small. Yes. Give us time to fix our house, and then we can have this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
I think we need to keep our viewers updated on the market performance today. Market is closed about 6.6 million shares worth 471 Kenya shillings. A million Kenya shillings has been today. It's a very strong Monday, not very typical of Mondays. Top trades in terms of turnover is EABL that we are discussing today, trading about 870,000 shares at a price of 204 shillings, followed closely by British American Tobacco, BAT, trading about 240,000 shares. Third position was KCB, traded about 2.5 million shares. And of course, Safaricom did not feature today in top 5, just trading shy of just slightly below 1 million shares today. That was it for today's trade in the market, and we continue with our discussion on East African Breweries. Linda, I had a question about, not a question, but just comment about cash. I think that this is such a cash intensive business, and look, they've just put up they're putting up a kegging plant in Kisumu, which you're talking about. It's yet to be commercialized, and this is a plant that will need regular cash, and so when you're talking about my comment is, I don't see that I don't see them giving out more cash to shareholders, because I think they need to retain much cash, as much cash as possible. But my question to you is that there's a medium-term note maturing in March 2020, just about 5 billion shillings, or equivalent about $50 million. I mean, from my end, the balance sheet looks a bit congested. I'm postulating that they'll roll over this debt or they'll finance it. What do you think? Do you think they'll pay it up or they'll roll it over? What's your view?
I would go with a more subtle and neutral opinion, where I feel they might pay part of the debt and roll over some or refinance it. We saw them refinancing the debt that they had taken in euros, refinancing it, and the
Kenyan shilling debt, obviously, it was very timely, because. But why would East African Breweries take a foreign currency debt? That's just...
George, why they have refinanced?
Yes,
the question is, what will they do next year?
But that's in the first place, when I saw that euro loan, my instinct was, why would you take a foreign currency debt in your earnings in local currency? But the good things that converted it into a Kenyan debt. Just go on, sorry.
That's true. Okay.
So my feeling is that they would pay off part of it with the cash that they do have, because they have a lot of cash, and maybe refinance some of it and maybe get maybe an additional amount. Yes.
Okay. Any some of the capex you're projecting from the current fiscal year? Obviously, is Kisumu plant done?
From management says that it's up and running, but I feel they really need to revamp operations there, because if you have a plant and you've taken debt for it, you want it operating at maximum capacity.
Absolutely. Yes.
So up to now, it's not at maximum capacity.
Yes.
So we would expect them to spend a bit this financial year.
What's your capex projection for this current year? Do you have any capex projection for this year?
No, I do not.
Oh, you do not. Okay. You think they're done with capex?
No, not yet.
Okay.
If I can remember, in the briefing, Andrew mentioned they're still bringing in those what do they call
DPVs?
them? Yes, for brewing.
Yeah.
So I would
those big machines, the corn machines.
Yeah,
expensive.
Okay.
And then I think maybe just to also ride on the CAPEX conversation, it sounded like the Kisumu plant was probably 60 to 70% done, and they needed to do slightly more work before the end of this calendar year. And then the utilization, I think they did mention, was about 50%, if I am not wrong. And they also did say that they would do slightly more CAPEX in Tanzania and in Uganda. But I had a final question for you. We did not talk about the target price and whether, with these numbers, you're still a buyer of EABL. Is it one of your top picks?
I would say EABL is a top pick.
Okay.
Top pick. I mean, in our market, apart from the banks and Safaricom, I think this is the next counter to
This
watch
is the
out
next
for.
one. So this is this. So it's number 4.
Yes, it's
What's
not.
your current-
So Safaricom, Equity,
yeah.
KCB, then EABL.
EABL. Yeah.
What's your current
target
valuation?
price?
Sorry.
So my target price was 241 shillings.
Okay,
Oh.
241.
Yeah.
Oh,
But this does not incorporate the numbers.
Yeah, this does
Okay.
not incorporate these numbers.
Okay,
Yeah.
but still not too much upside, but some healthy upside.
Yeah.
241 and then a 4.2% dividend yield,
yeah.
and more or less a business that is finally stable. So
Yeah.
what are the risk factors, if you look at it, from your analysis and from the investor briefing on Friday? What could potentially go wrong?
The regulatory environment. I mean, EABL over and over again, if something happens in the political environment, if something changes with the regulation, they are always really hit.
Okay.
But I don't feel that that is something that is really under their control. Businesses will always be affected by the environment that they operate in.
That's true.
So inflation, food inflation, fuel levies, those are the things that you would expect will
Okay.
continue affecting EABL. Of course, the weather patterns, because they're also dependent on farming for barley. So I would say that generally that's it.
I like when you bring out the element of politics, because the East African bloc
Yes.
gets into a political cycle from 2021
Yeah.
2022, and we're in 2019.
Yeah.
So it's one of those stocks that you really have to be a long-term holder just to weather the storm.
Yeah,
right?
Actually, yes.
So maybe is a 3 or 5 year holding period worth anybody's while? What would you say is a worthwhile holding period?
Yes, I would say you can, after elections, like right now is a good time to buy.
Okay.
And towards the time for elections, you can just exit.
You
because
okay.
with East African politics, you can't really tell what will
Yeah.
happen.
That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's
for
a very
Linda.
that's a good trading strategy. You exit EABL just before elections.
I think you exit everything just before elections.
But let me ask
Or
you.
maybe you even conversely buy, because if everybody goes in that sense, sorry to bring us back to that, it means that you'd actually expect the price to correct downwards.
Yes.
From
And
end of 2020.
That's what you call contrarian investing.
Yeah.
The heart is moving this side.
And I would buy
You
it.
move the
actually.
opposite side.
I would buy it, because in as much as there's always chaos, it is volatile, then it just flattens
And
out.
you're sure it will recover.
It will recover.
Once things settle down.
Once things settle down, you recover. But then again,
I would short it. Let's short EABL.
Okay.
Yeah,
But Linda, let me just
that's
ask you one final question on this is, I mean, being the EABL analyst, what is the next growth story for East African breweries?
I would say there's really a lot of potential still on Senator Keg. I
Yeah.
feel they've not really fully utilized the concept and the whole idea. I mean, you cannot underestimate local brews.
Yeah.
And we've seen the government really come hard on these local brews. So
Yes.
if they're able to segment and capture that market, despite that Senator Keg has really low margins, I feel that there's
That's
still
the
a
next
niche
growth
there.
story.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the
And
next
is a
growth
key in
story.
distribution and entrenching that distribution?
Yes,
Okay.
of course, we've seen quite a lot of marketing even in Kisumu. They said they've about 4,000 new bars there.
wow, that's a huge number
That's a
in a
huge
short
number.
period.
But
Okay.
and I feel that that is the next strategy. I mean, they need to also go out in other counties, not just for Kisumu. There's a lot of space in Mount Kenya region and Central region, the areas where you feel you hear government complaining. We are fighting local brews, brews.
So those are opportunities.
Those are opportunities for
Do you have
UABL.
a sense of how big the informal market is? Not necessarily in liters, but what's the split in your own analysis, formal versus informal? Is formal 30% of total brews that are consumed? Is it 50%? Do you have a sense? Or is the informal market considerably bigger than the formal?
From one perspective, the informal is actually bigger.
It's much bigger.
Yeah.
So then you're
Because-
saying the opportunity is Senator driving into the...
Yes, because if you look at EABL and the innovations, they are targeting the formal market. You know, people who can afford a beer, but you know, people who can afford a beer, someone will take 5 and say, I've had enough.
True.
But the person who buys Senator Keg, 1 cup, provided they have money,
They'll just keep drinking. So they stop
yes.
drinking when the money...
When the money ends.
My
yes.
goodness, how are we going to avoid poverty, Linda, if you only stop drinking when you're broke? Oh well, on a light note.
Yeah, we've got a business to analyze, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, so it doesn't matter.
As long as
Linda,
people
that was a very, very insightful discussion on East African breweries. Thank you, Linda, for coming up. And once you do an updated note, obviously, you're always welcome to come discuss it here.
Okay.
That was Linda Kiraitheanalyst, a senior analyst at Apex Africa Capital, and also an EABL analyst taking us through EABL's full year 2019 results. We'll leave you with some of the performance charts from last week's results release. We'll leave you with that, and good afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow.